The War Council chamber stank of methane and arrogance. 16 species, all convinced they owned the galaxy, all seated around a table that had witnessed 1,000 negotiations and exactly 0 compromises. Commander Vrel of the Korthax Dominion let his secondary mandibles click in satisfaction. The holographic display showed their conquest map, 3/4 of known space glowing in victorious crimson. Pretty. Absolute. Unstoppable. The question, announced High Arbiter Yilix, her translucent form shimmering with what passed for smugness among the veiled ones, is not whether we shall expand. The question is who, precisely, will stop us. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Deep guttural sounds from the Brenthawk warriors, high-pitched chitters from the insectoid Skrell, that weird bubbling noise the aquatic Delvins made when they found something funny. Vrel joined in, because honestly, it was hilarious. 14 systems had fallen in the last rotation alone. The resistance, groups were down to guerrilla tactics and hope, which was basically another way of saying they were down to nothing and prayers. The Terran Union, someone muttered from the back. Probably Kellex, the nervous little Parvan, who kept detailed files on every species they steamrolled. They've sent 3 diplomatic requests. Diplomatic requests? Yilix drew out the words like they tasted of something rotten. How positively adorable. What does this Terran Union want? To surrender preemptively? Save us the trouble of bombarding their worlds? Vrel pulled up the file on his personal display. Humans. Bipedal mammals from a planet they called Earth, located in an unremarkable arm of an unremarkable galaxy sector. Single-planet species. No colonies worth mentioning. Population of 11 billion, which sounded impressive until you remembered the Korthax alone numbered 43 billion across 8 worlds. They want, Kellex continued, his voice getting smaller, a cessation of hostilities in the buffer zones. They claim we've been attacking neutral shipping lanes. We have been attacking neutral shipping lanes, General Thraxon said, not bothering to hide his amusement. The massive reptilian leaned back in his hovering throne. That's the entire point of conquest. You take what isn't yours until everything is yours. Someone explained to Kellex how war works. More laughter. Kellex's skin flushed that peculiar shade of purple that meant embarrassment, and Vrel almost felt bad for him. Almost. But the little bureaucrat should have known better than to bring up diplomatic requests in a war council. Ignore them, Yilix declared. Continue operations as planned. If these humans complain again, perhaps we'll move them up the schedule. Show them what happens to species who waste our time with paperwork. The meeting dissolved into tactical discussions, arguments over which sector to brutalize next, the usual military planning that came with running a the species empire built on violence and intimidation. Vrel was examining supply routes when the alarm started. Not the combat alarm, the perimeter breach alarm. The station was located in deep space, specifically chosen because nothing could approach without being detected 17 light-minutes away. The defensive grid could vaporize a battlecruiser at 12 light-minutes. At 6 light-minutes, even a stealth ship would light up sensors like a supernova at a funeral. Something had gotten to 0 light-minutes. Something was here. Report, Yilix snapped, her shimmer flickering between colors that indicated severe annoyance. The tactical officer's hands were actually shaking. Single ship, frigate class, Terran design. A pause that lasted 1 second too long. It's docked. It's what? Docked. Port 73. I don't know how. It wasn't there. And then, it was. Vrel felt his combat instincts trigger. That old familiar rush of adrenaline analog that had kept him alive through 6 major campaigns. You didn't survive in the Korthax military by ignoring impossible things. Impossible things were usually about to kill you. Seal the port, Thraxon ordered. Deploy security teams, full combat protocols. Already sealed, the tactical officer said. The intruder cut through. She's in the station. She? One human. Female. Armed. The officer looked up from his console, and Vrel had never seen that particular expression on a Korthak's face before. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. Pure, undiluted fear. She's heading this way. The War Council erupted into motion. 16 species, all predators, all veterans, all reaching for weapons or shields, or calling for backup. Vrel grabbed his plasma rifle from its magnetic holster, checked the charge. Full. Good. He moved to cover the main entrance, along with a dozen others. The door was solid, compressed titanium, 3 feet thick, coded to the genetic signatures of council members. Only. It would take a breaching charge or a plasma cutter 20 minutes to get through. It opened. Just opened. Like someone had politely pressed the entry button, which was impossible because the entry button was on their side, and also you needed a genetic signature, and also what the actual hell was happening. The human walked in. She was small. That was Vrel's first thought. Maybe 5.5 feet, slight build, wearing what looked like standard military fatigues in matte black. No armor. No helmet. Just cloth, and boots, and confidence. Dark hair pulled back in a simple tail. Face that might have been pretty if it wasn't completely, utterly calm. And blood. So much blood on those boots. Still wet. Still dripping. Behind her, the corridor was a gallery of the dead. The lighting flickered, where weapons fire had damaged the circuits. Scorch marks decorated the walls in artistic patterns of violence. She'd done that. This one small human had carved through their elite guards like they were decorative plants. Hi. Conversational. The translator picked up something almost cheerful in the tone. I'm Captain Elena Kess. The Terran Union sent me to follow up on our diplomatic requests. You know, the 3 you've been ignoring? Silence. The kind of silence that happens when predators suddenly realize they might be prey. Yilix recovered first. Credit where due, the High Arbiter hadn't survived 2 centuries of politics by being slow on the uptake. You have murdered my guards. You have violated sovereign territory. You have committed acts of war. Yep. Elena Kess smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Funny thing about acts of war. You've been committing them for 6 months straight. 57 merchant vessels destroyed. 14,000 civilians dead. 3 colony worlds bombarded into radioactive dust. And you know, what really bothered me? You were laughing about it. You were listening? Kellic squeaked. Of course I was listening. We've had surveillance on this station since you built it. She took 3 steps forward. Several weapons tracked her, but nobody fired. Something about the way she moved suggested that bullets would be inconvenient rather than fatal. You asked, who would stop you? That's adorable. Really. Like watching children discover they're not the biggest kids in the playground anymore. Thraxon roared, charged. 300 pounds of muscle and rage and genetically enhanced combat reflexes moving fast enough to blur. He covered the distance in under 2 seconds, claws extended, jaws open to bite her head clean off. Elena didn't dodge. She stepped inside his guard, one hand catching his wrist, the other slamming into his elbow joint in a direction elbows were absolutely not meant to bend. The crack echoed like a gunshot. Thraxon screamed. A sound Vrel had never heard from. The general before, high and agonized and very briefly alive. The human's knee came up, caught him in the throat, crushed his windpipe. He dropped, choking, clawing at his neck. She stepped over him without looking down. Anyone else? She glanced around the room, making eye contact with each of them. Vrel found himself unable to look away. Her eyes were brown. Very ordinary brown. They should have been warm. Instead, they were cold as space, empty as vacuum, holding all the mercy of a black hole. No? Good. Let's talk like civilized beings. Vrel's rifle was aimed at her center mass. His finger rested on the trigger. He'd made confirmed kills at 800 meters. This target was 15 feet away, and standing still. It should have been easy. He couldn't pull the trigger. Something primal, something that evolution had burned into his hindbrain across a million years of being prey before his species climbed to the top of their food chain, was screaming at him to not, under any circumstances, pull that trigger. Because if he did, if he actually tried to kill this human, she would take it personally. And from the look in those cold brown eyes, personal meant everyone in this room would die screaming. The Terran Union, Elena continued, voice still pleasant, still conversational, is formally requesting that the Korthax Dominion and its allies cease all military operations in neutral space. Immediately. No negotiations, no compromises, no cute little tactics where you pretend to agree and then keep doing whatever you want. Just stop. Or what? Yilix managed to ask, though her shimmer had gone pale. Or I come back. Elena smiled again. You've got 14 species here, right? Couple thousand ships? Maybe 40 billion soldiers total across all your territories? That's cute. Earth has 11 billion humans. Want to know how many of us do what I do? Nobody answered. Nobody wanted to know. 2 million. That's 0.02% of our population. The Terran Response Corps. We're the ones who handle problems that can't be fixed with diplomacy. She paused. Let that sink in. You attacked our shipping. You laughed about killing civilians. You asked, who would stop you? So here I am. One person. Imagine 2 million of me, 2 million humans like this, all walking nightmares in skin suits, all capable of shredding through elite guards like wet paper. 2 million pairs of those cold, empty eyes. 2 million voices speaking in pleasant tones about murder. He couldn't. His imagination rejected the concept as impossible, as too horrifying to process. You're bluffing, one of the Skrell commanders chattered. No species maintains that kind of military. The cost alone. We don't maintain them. We grow them. Elena's expression didn't change, but something about her stance suggested dark amusement. Earth's a death world. Boys and girls. Everything there is trying to kill everything else. We evolved to survive. In conditions that would melt most of your species into protein soup. Then, we got smart, built civilization, and spent 10,000 years figuring out new and creative ways to kill each other. We're really, really good at it. She walked to the holographic display, studied the conquest map, ran one finger across the glowing red territories, leaving a trail of darkness where she touched. You think this is impressive? We controlled more territory than this when we still used wooden ships and gunpowder. We've been practicing genocide since before your oldest species discovered fire. The only thing that's kept us from conquering the galaxy already is that we decided we didn't want to. We wanted to be better, civilized, peaceful. Elena turned, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. But you hurt our people. You killed our civilians. You made us reconsider our position on violence. So, congratulations. You got our attention. This is an act of terrorism, Yilix said, but her voice wavered. The Council of Aligned Worlds will. The Council? Elena laughed. Actually laughed. A bright, genuine sound that was somehow more terrifying than anything else she'd done. The Council's been begging us to join for the last 50 years. We kept saying no, because we didn't want to get involved in galactic politics. Guess what just changed our minds? She pulled a small device from her pocket, tapped it twice. The holographic display shifted, showed something new. Footage, dated 2 days ago. A human colony, small settlement, maybe 1,000 people, nestled on a pretty world with twin moons. Then the bombing started. Orbital strikes, systematic and thorough, turning homes into craters, people into ash. The footage ran for 37 seconds. When it ended, the silence was absolute. That was New Beijing, Elena said quietly. Research station. Xenobotanists, mostly. They were studying local plant life, trying to develop new medicines. 347 civilians. 82 children under the age of 10. The pleasant tone was completely gone now. Her voice was flat. Dead. Your ships did that yesterday. Vrel felt something cold settle in his stomach. He hadn't known. Most of them hadn't known. The military handled the attacks, filed reports that said things like enemy installation neutralized and acceptable collateral damage. Nobody had mentioned children. Nobody had mentioned that the enemy installation was a research station. So, here's what happens next. Elena's voice was still flat, still empty. You have 72 hours to withdraw every ship, every soldier, every probe from neutral space. You leave the border systems alone. You stop attacking civilian targets. You do this. We forget this happened. You don't. She paused. You really don't want to know what happens if you don't. And if we refuse? Yilix asked, though she sounded like she already knew the answer. Then I go home, file my report, and recommend full military intervention. 2 million response corps operators, backed by the full might of the Terran Union Defense Fleet. Elena walked back toward the door, stepping over Thraxon's still body without looking. We've got 6,000 warships in active service. That's what we keep around for defensive purposes. If we actually mobilize for war, we can field 60,000 within a month. All of them crewed by the species you just declared war on. The species that invented the concept of mutually assured destruction because regular destruction wasn't scary enough. She stopped at the doorway, looked back. 72 hours. After that, this stops being my problem and starts being your extinction event. The door closed behind her. Automatic locks engaged with hollow thuds that sounded like nails in a coffin. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Kill her. Before she reaches her ship, full security response, seal the hangar, vent the atmosphere. No. Vrel surprised himself by speaking. His voice sounded strange, distant. You heard her. That's one. If we kill her, they send more. He's right. Yilix's shimmer had stabilized somewhat, though she still looked shaken. We need to verify her claims. If there are truly 2 million like her. There are. The tactical officer's voice was small. I've been running scans while she talked. The Terran military database was accessible. They wanted us to access it. Everything she said checks out. The response corps exists. 2.3 million active operators. Training program that has an 87% fatality rate. And those are just the ones who pass. Vrel's rifle felt heavy. Useless. He lowered it slowly. What do they train them for? It doesn't say. The files are classified, but there are performance metrics. The officer swallowed hard. Average response. Corps operator in the field. 43 confirmed kills before first injury. Standard deployment duration. 16 hours continuous combat operations without rest. Psychological profile. Rated as stable. All of them. Stable. They sent someone who could slaughter her way through a secure military station, threaten a war council, and walk out alive. And their psychologists considered that stable behavior. What were the unstable ones like? Commander Vrel looked at the holographic display, at the red territories that had seemed so triumphant 10 minutes ago. They looked different now. Vulnerable. Target-rich environments. Places where small humans with cold eyes and bloody boots could appear without warning and turn empires into graveyards. We need to vote, he heard himself say. Withdraw or fight. Those are our options. We're the Korthax Dominion, Thraxon rasped from the floor. Still alive somehow. Still defiant. We don't surrender to threats. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We die? Elena's voice came through the station intercom, cheerful again, almost friendly. Sorry, couldn't help overhearing. Station security is adorable, by the way. I'm in your systems now. Just wanted to mention that my ship has passive lock on your reactor core. If I don't check in every 6 hours, it fires automatically. You've got about, 17 seconds to make a decision. Withdraw, or I blow this station into plasma. Your choice. Make it quick, though. I've got 4 more stops today. The countdown appeared on every screen, holographic numbers in bright human red. 16, 15, 14. We withdraw, Yillik said, voice hollow. Send the order. All ships, all territories, full retreat to home systems. Immediately. 10, 9, 8. The orders went out. Across the station, across the fleet, across 16 species and 1,000 ships, the greatest military force the galaxy had seen in 3 centuries began to retreat. Not because they were beaten, not because they couldn't win. Because one human had walked into their war council with blood on her boots and shown them exactly what fear tasted like. 3, 2, 1. Thanks. Elena's voice, still cheerful. Pleasure doing business with you. Oh, and gentlemen, ladies, various other configurations of sentient beings. If anyone thinks about breaking this agreement, remember, you only met one of us, and I was being polite. The line went dead. Vrel stood in the War Council chamber, surrounded by the finest military minds of 16 species, all of them armed, all of them trained, all of them absolutely, completely terrified of a single human who'd already left the station. They'd asked who would stop them. She'd answered. And the truly horrifying part, the thing that would keep Vrel awake for years afterward, was the certainty that she'd meant every word. This was them being polite. He really didn't want to see what humans were like when they were rude. Captain Elena Kess sat in the RAS, Helena P's, pilot seat of her frigate, watching the Korthak station shrink in the rear display. Her coffee had gone cold, but she drank it anyway. Mom also said violence was the last refuge of the incompetent, but Mom had never seen what orbital bombardment did to a research station full of botanists and their kids. Sometimes the last refuge was the only refuge left. Control, this is Reaper 7. Mission accomplished. They're pulling back. She pulled up the tactical display, watched red dots scatter like roaches when the lights came on. Beautiful, really. Estimated compliance rate, 96%. The other 4% are going to be problems. Copy that, Reaper 7. Commander Marcus Webb's voice crackled through the comm, warm with approval. You put the fear of Earth into them proper. How'd Thraxon take it? He didn't. Crushed his windpipe. Elena finished the coffee, made a face. He'll live, probably. Assuming their medics are. Competent. Not my problem either way. Cold. Professional. She started the pre-flight sequence, feeling the ship hum to life around her. The Whisper was a good ship. Small and fast and packed with enough stealth tech to make her functionally invisible until she wanted to be seen. What's next? Next is the fun part. The Veiled Ones want a meeting. Formal negotiations. They're scared, Elena. Really scared. Good. Fear keeps people honest. The engines kicked in, smooth and clean. Where and when? Neutral station. Darwin Outpost. 48 hours. Full diplomatic delegation. They're bringing representatives from all 16 species. A pause. The brass wants you there. Elena groaned. I'm terrible at diplomacy. That's why they trained me to break things. They want you there precisely because you're terrible at diplomacy. Visual reminder of what happens if talking fails. Marcus chuckled. Wear your dress uniform. The one without the bloodstains. I only have one dress. Uniform. Then wash it. The connection cut. And Elena was alone with her thoughts and the endless dark of space. 347 people. 82 kids. Their crime had been existing in territory the Korthax Dominion wanted. Her hands tightened on the controls until her knuckles went white. Professional, stay professional. Channel it into something useful. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of faster-than-light travel, mandatory debriefing, and one very awkward conversation with Supply about why her boots needed replacing again. They gave her new ones without comment. Supply had learned to stop asking questions about what Response Corps operators did to their equipment. Darwin Outpost was neutral ground, built and maintained by the Council of Aligned Worlds. It orbited a dead star, all gleaming metal and diplomatic optimism. Elena docked, submitted to the security scan that found 17 concealed weapons, and smiled pleasantly when they asked her to surrender them. No. Captain, station regulations clearly state, I'm Terran Response Corps. We don't surrender our weapons. Ever. That's in your regulations too. Subsection 12, paragraph 9. Amendment added 6 months ago, when we started attending council functions. She tilted her head, kept smiling. You can call your supervisor if you want. I'll wait. The security officer, a nervous Parvon who looked related to Kellex, made the call. 2 minutes later, Elena walked onto the station fully armed. Progress. The conference room was impressive in that bland way diplomatic spaces always were. Big table, comfortable chairs, soft lighting, designed to put people at ease. 17 delegates sat waiting, representing the Korthax Dominion and its allies. They all looked significantly less arrogant than they had 48 hours ago. Elena took her seat next to Ambassador Victoria Hayes, a silver-haired woman who'd been negotiating peace treaties since before Elena was born. Next to her sat Admiral James Hunt, looking uncomfortable in his formal uniform, and Dr. Priya Mehta, from the Xenopsychology Division. Thank you all for coming, Ambassador Hayes began, voice smooth and diplomatic. I believe we can resolve this situation peacefully, to the benefit of all parties involved. High Arbiter Yilix shimmered unhappily. Your operative threatened us, murdered our personnel, committed acts of piracy and terrorism. After you bombed a civilian research station into radioactive dust, Elena said flatly. Let's keep our perspectives straight here. Captain Kess, Hayes said warningly. What? We're supposed to pretend they didn't kill 347 non-combatants? That their ships didn't systematically destroy every building, every vehicle, every person on New Beijing? Elena leaned forward. I watched the footage. They didn't miss. This wasn't collateral damage. This was extermination. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. Commander Vrel, looking significantly less confident than he had in his own war council, spoke up. We were not aware the target was civilian. Intelligence indicated military installation. Your intelligence was wrong. Your targeting solutions were perfect. Elena pulled out her datapad, threw the images onto the central display. Bodies. Small bodies. This is what perfect targeting looks like when you don't bother to verify your intelligence. Silence. Heavy and suffocating. Dr. Mehta cleared her throat. Perhaps we should discuss terms of ceasefire. Establish boundaries, rules of engagement going forward. Already established, Elena said. You stay out of neutral space. You don't attack civilian targets. You don't expand into territories occupied by species who haven't consented. Simple. Basic. The rules everyone else follows. And if we refuse? One of the Skrell representatives, braver or stupider than the others. If we determine that our strategic interests require, then we stop asking nicely. Admiral Hunt spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the weight of 40 years military service. Captain Kess represents 1% of our response corps. They're our scalpel, surgical, precise, terrifying. But we've also got hammers, big ones. The defense fleet has been on standby since the New Beijing attack. 6,000 ships, 300,000 crew, all of them very, very angry about what happened to those botanists. He stood, walked to the display, changed the image to show fleet positions. This is your space. These red zones, your conquests, your great triumph. 14 systems in 6 months. Impressive. The image shifted. This is our space. 143 systems, all of them defended, all of them connected by faster-than-light logistics networks that can move entire battle groups in hours. And this, another shift. This is how long it would take us to sterilize every world you control. 42 days. That's with conventional weapons. If we use the fun stuff, the things we invented during our world wars and decided were too terrible to ever deploy again, we could do it in a week. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. You're threatening genocide, Yilix whispered. We're explaining consequences. Hayes took control again, voice still diplomatic, but edged with steel. The Terran Union doesn't want war. We want peace, trade, cultural exchange, all the boring civilized things that species do when they're not trying to murder each other. But we're also pragmatists. We know what species like yours respond to. Species like us? Vrel's mandibles clicked angrily. Predators. Dr. Mehta spoke softly, almost gently. That's not an insult. It's a classification. You evolved as apex predators on your respective worlds. You climbed to the top of your food chains through violence and domination. It's natural, understandable, written into your genetic code. She smiled, and it was sad. Humans are predators too, but we're also prey. We evolved in an environment where everything was trying to eat us. Big cats, bigger reptiles, angry hippos, venomous everything, bacteria that could kill in hours, viruses that wiped out continents. We survived by being smarter, faster, more vicious than anything else on our world. And then we turned that survival instinct into civilization. Elena watched the delegates process this, saw understanding dawn on some faces, denial on others. You're saying humans are more dangerous than us, one of the Brenthawk warriors rumbled, because you were prey. No. Meta's smile vanished. Bata, I'm saying humans are more dangerous because we remember being prey. We remember what it feels like to be hunted, to hide, to watch our children die because we weren't strong enough to protect them. And we swore never to be that weak again. So we got strong. Really strong. Strong enough that nothing in the world could threaten us anymore. Then we looked up at the stars and wondered what else was out there. And you found us. Yilix sounded tired, defeated. We found the Council. Found a galaxy full of species playing empire, drawing borders, having little wars over resources and pride. It reminded us of our own history, our world wars, our genocides, our near-extinction events. Hayes pulled up another image. Earth, blue and green and white, almost painfully beautiful. We almost destroyed ourselves 17 times before we figured out peace. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, nanotech gray goo scenarios, artificial intelligence gone wrong. We barely survived our own adolescence as a species, and we looked at the galactic community and saw children playing with guns. So you decided to be our babysitters? Vrel's tone was bitter. We decided to be your warning. Elena stood, walked around the table, slowly, letting them see her, really see her. Young face, old eyes, casual, confidence of someone who knew exactly how dangerous she was. You asked who would stop you, we answered. But here's the thing you need to understand. We don't want to stop you. We want you to stop yourselves. She stopped behind Yilix's chair. The High Arbiter's shimmer flickered nervously, but she didn't turn around. Every species goes through this phase, Elena continued. Get strong enough to be dangerous, stupid enough to think they're invincible, arrogant enough to believe might makes right. Some species grow out of it. Some don't. The ones that don't either destroy themselves or get destroyed by someone else. We're offering you a third option. Which is? Grow up. Right now. While you still can. Elena moved back to her seat. The galaxy's a dangerous place. Real dangers, not pretend ones. There are things out in the dark that make your dominion look like a toddler's tantrum. The Council knows about some of them. We know about more. And eventually, one of those things is, I'm going to notice all the noise you're making, all the attention you're drawing, and it's going to come looking. You're trying to frighten us, one of the Delvins burbled. I'm trying to educate you. Elena sat down, suddenly looking exhausted. You think humans are scary? We're the friendly ones. We're the species that decided peace was better than violence, that cooperation beat competition, that civilization meant something more than just organized murder. But we remember the alternatives. We've met some of them. And trust me when I say you do not want those alternatives to meet you. Admiral Hunt pulled up another display. Star maps, sectors marked in black. These are dead zones. Places where civilizations used to exist. Not extinct, not conquered, just gone. Sterilized. We've found 43 of them in our explorations. Whatever did that is still out there. And it doesn't negotiate. The silence stretched. Elena watched the delegates absorb this, saw their certainty crumble into something like fear. Good. Fear was honest. Fear meant they were paying attention. Ambassador Hayes spoke into the quiet. So here are our terms. Simple. Non-negotiable. 1. Immediate withdrawal from all neutral territories. 2. Reparations for civilian casualties, starting with New Beijing. 3. Participation in the Council of Aligned Worlds Mutual Defense Agreements. 4. Acceptance of Terran Union observers on all military operations to ensure compliance with sentient rights conventions. Those terms are insulting, Brel said, but his voice lacked conviction. Those terms are generous, Hunt corrected. Alternative is we let Captain Kess and her 2 million friends handle this their way. You want that? Nobody wanted that. You have 72 hours to ratify these terms, Hayes continued. After that, they expire, and we move to economic sanctions, followed by quarantine, followed by military intervention. Yilix shimmered through several colors before settling on defeated gray. What assurance do we have that your response corps won't simply assassinate our leadership? That this Captain Kess won't return with her colleagues and eliminate us all? Elena laughed. Couldn't help it. If we wanted you dead, you'd be dead. I had 17 opportunities to kill everyone in that war council. Probably could have rigged your reactor to explode on a delay, wiped out the whole station, made it look like an accident. That's not what we do. Then what do? We respond. Someone hurts humans, we hurt them back. Proportionally. Precisely. Then we offer them a choice. Stop, or we escalate. Most species stop. She met Yilix's shimmer directly. You killed 347 of ours. I killed 15 of yours and scared the rest into compliance. That's proportional. Now you get to choose whether this ends here or continues. And if we choose to continue? Elena's expression went flat again. Empty. Then it continues until one of us is extinct. Spoiler alert. It won't be us. The delegates huddled together, voices low and urgent. Elena watched them argue, saw the moment when reality overcame pride. They were beaten, and they knew it. Not by superior numbers or better weapons, but by the simple fact that humans had survived worse than anything the Dominion could throw at them and come out stronger for it. Finally, Vrel spoke. We accept. Terms are ratified, effective immediately. Forces will withdraw within 48 hours. Reparations will be negotiated through proper channels. We will attend council sessions as requested. And the observers? Hayes prompted. Accepted, though I suspect they will find our operations significantly less interesting going forward. That's the idea. The ambassador stood, extended her hand. Old Earth custom, obsolete everywhere except in diplomacy. sitting behind her with those cold brown eyes. He took the hand carefully, shook it once. "I hope you are correct, for all our sakes." The meeting adjourned. Delegates filed out looking shaken but alive. Elena stayed seated, staring at the display showing New Beijing's ruins. "You okay?" Hunt asked quietly. "No, but I will be." She stood, stretched. "They really going to comply?" "For now. Fear's a powerful motivator." He paused. "You know the other response corps operators are going to be jealous. You made first contact with a hostile empire and scared them straight without firing a shot." "I fired plenty of shots. 15 guards, remember?" Elena headed for the door. "Besides, this isn't over. There's always someone who doesn't get the message. Someone who thinks humans are bluffing. Someone who needs a more direct demonstration. You sound like you're looking forward to it." "I'm not. But I'm ready for it." She stopped at the exit, looked back at the empty conference room. "That's the difference between us and them. They fight because they want to. We fight because we have to." Elena spent them writing her report, cleaning her weapons, and trying not to think about small bodies in the ruins of New Beijing. Professional distance? That's what the psych evaluations called it. The ability to separate the mission from the emotions, to function despite the horror. Elena called it lying to yourself, but it worked well enough. Earth Space Command was located in Geneva, buried under 300 meters of reinforced concrete, because humans learned the hard way that important things should be difficult to destroy. She reported in person, stood at attention, while General Sarah Martinez read her report on a tablet that probably cost more than Elena's ship. "Impressive work, Captain. Clean, efficient, minimal casualties. Exactly what we needed." Martinez looked up, dark eyes sharp. "How? Are you holding up?" "Fine, ma'am. That's what your predecessor said. Right before he walked into the ocean, wearing full combat gear, and didn't come back." The general set down the tablet. "I'm not asking as your commanding officer. I'm asking as someone who's done what you do and knows what it costs." Elena hesitated, professional distance cracking slightly. "I watched the footage from New Beijing 63 times. Can still see it when I close my eyes. The Korthax guards I killed, I don't remember their faces. The botanists who died, I remember all of them." "Good. The day you stop remembering is the day you become what we fight against." Martinez stood, walked to the window overlooking the city. Response Corps exists because sometimes violence is the only language certain species understand. But we never forget that violence has a cost. Every life taken, even in righteous cause, diminishes us slightly. That's what makes us human. "Permission to speak freely, ma'am?" "Granted. That's a pretty sentiment. But it doesn't bring back the dead, doesn't make their children any less orphaned, doesn't unmake what the Dominion did." Elena's voice was tight. "We scared them, made them retreat. What happens when they stop being scared? When some new commander decides humans were bluffing and tests our resolve?" Martinez turned, smiled grimly. "Then we remind them, again and again, as many times as necessary, until the lesson sticks, or they're too dead to forget it." She walked back to her desk. "You're on leave for 2 weeks. Mandatory. Go home, see your family, remember why we do this. Then report back, and we'll talk about your next assignment." There's always a next assignment. There's always someone who needs stopping. That's why we exist. Someone has to stand between the monsters and the innocent. The general pulled up another file. "Dismissed, Captain." Elena saluted, left the office, took the elevator up to ground level. Geneva was beautiful in autumn. All golden leaves and crisp air. People walked the streets without fear, laughed in cafes, lived lives untouched by war. They didn't know about New Beijing, didn't know about the Korthax Dominion or the response that had stopped them. They didn't need to know. That was the point. Her apartment was small, comfortable, deliberately impersonal. Elena dropped her gear, showered until the water ran cold, and collapsed into bed. Sleep came eventually, filled with dreams of small bodies and cold brown eyes, and the question that haunted every response corps operator. When does the monster stopping monsters become just another monster? She didn't have an answer. Wasn't sure anyone did. But as long as she kept asking the question, kept remembering the cost, maybe she'd stay human enough to matter. The galaxy turned. The Korthax Dominion withdrew. Peace treaties were signed. Trade resumed, and in the darkness between stars, 2 million response corps operators waited patiently for the next time. Someone needed to be reminded that humanity's mercy had limits, but their memory did not. They'd asked who would stop them. She'd walked in with blood on her boots and said, "Me." The galaxy had listened. For now.